Good morning, Green Scene. Step inside the Life Elevated Processing Facility with us. Today we're visiting with Justin Arriola. He's the laboratory manager or head weed nerd at their location in Utah County. You may have seen their first line of products in your local pharmacy. GLU, or pronounced Heal You, is the latest CO2 extracted cartridge to become available to Utah patients. Welcome to Salt Lake City, Justin. We're glad to have you. Justin, where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm a Utah boy, born in Hilldays Hospital. I was raised here, went to high school here. As soon as I was 17, I joined the military and left, went and saw the world, and came back, and worked through various things, and started my own companies, and found my way in cannabis based on some early exposure, some family exposure, and some ties back to, it all comes from California, right?
Right.
Everything is moving across the country from there, and so we've got some family ties there, and I had family who was pretty heavily involved in that, and even here in the state, the black market side, so that was kind of my early exposure.
What was your first steps into the cannabis industry?
I had started an engineering company here in Utah, but before that, I was working facilitating access for a lot of people who didn't typically want the fact that they were accessing cannabis products. Well known. So very early on, I was working with people. I was actually working with patients to help provide access to flower products, but I was also making oils and doing stuff for that on the black market side for a number of years. So pretty early on, that's where I was focused. The medical market in California was like 96. I graduated in 94, and I came back from the military in 99. And so, having some ties to that culture, very early on, there weren't a lot of people that were willing to even talk to other people about cannabis use here, especially on the black market side.
Really taboo.
Right, it was really difficult, and so I kind of got into a situation where I would go in and teach people, like, hey, here's something that you can use to deal with pain, here's something you can use to deal with a condition, and like I was working high-level engineering jobs. I was working for other people. I worked for a robotics lab, I worked for Boeing, and then at night I was also facilitating cannabis access I worked with lawyers and doctors and ER nurses, and it was kind of crazy that, I was in this weird position of very high-level professional jobs, but also very passionate about providing medicine to people who need it, and alternative medicine, right? And I just very early on seeing what it had done for people. Once you realize, like, hey, this is something that helps people. It's not just this black market 80s drug that needs to just be said no to. Really resonated with me. So facilitating access for patients was very important to me very early on. It actually caused me some problems. I've had my own issues with some legal issues around that same thing. Just like a lot of people in this space have done it. And had to overcome that as well. So,
Well, it's probably got to be pretty exciting to now work in a legal market, and there seems to be a common trend with a lot of the operators here in the state of Utah that they're patients providing medicine for other patients.
absolutely.
When did you decide to try to get a license for Utah's new market?
So early on, I did all the applications, right? So I worked with several groups. So by the time licenses came around here, I'd worked on the on the legislative side. I worked with the groups pushing the ballot initiative. I did a lot of the committee hearings and caucus meetings and working with legislators and educating, a lot of the guys that were initially no's. We worked with, in combination with a lot of the other patient groups, with groups that were working, we were all kind of working together in that thing to educate, to explain why this medicine needs to be there. And so when I first started, it was always the patient advocacy side. But out of state, I was working on the industry side. So I was working on helping people scale, designing facilities, doing things like that. A lot of work with automation, helping people use industrial tools that they didn't necessarily have access to because it was still a federally illegal substance. And so once it looked like, once the law passed and we had the ballot initiative, because honestly, I thought Utah would be like one of the last states to pass any type of legislation that would be protective of the industry. And so once we had that, of course, like I'm going to work with groups, and I did that in other states, helped consult for like license applications and some of that stuff. And so natural step here, but here, Utah's like my home, right? And so it's like, of course, I want to be involved in actually holding a license, not just helping people build a business, but I want to be involved in those. So, I applied for cultivation, I applied for pharmacy licenses. And obviously those pools were limited, the selection was limited there. So the natural next step was processing, a tier 1 processing license.
And so today we're sitting in Life Elevated in the processing facility.
Yeah.
You didn't pull the trifecta, but you were able to acquire the processing license, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on behind you and around us here in this facility.
Yeah, so this is a facility that we had inputted on the engineering side. So we did a lot of the design for the space, the way product flows through. And I worked with the ownership group early on that. And it came time to deal with some of the processes. They really needed a lot of technical knowledge, not much cannabis experience outside of myself with the group initially. And so, we talked about kind of have some equity trade, and it was like, hey, I'm going to build you guys up, but I want to be in the family.
Yeah.
We're going to make this thing together.
Right.
And so that's what we did. We brought people in, and we've educated basically everybody here, starting from ground zero, and kind of built this team. And now when you talk to our team, it's really nice to see them, like even like Bev and some of the other owners, like talking about cannabinoids and the way it acts your body. It's like when you first talk to them, they have none of that, right?
Right.
So that's been very exciting for me. Just from an engineering standpoint, what you see, like all of the electrical and machinery, there is a lot of technical knowledge that's involved in producing high quality extracts. So that's fun for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I have that engineering mind. At the same time, I also have this patient advocacy mind, providing these helpful tools to patients here in Utah for a long time. And if you talk to any of the patients, a lot of people know who I am. Just
Right.
from that, right? And so when you look at this, seeing this thing run, and the culmination of products that are leaving the door, it's very satisfying to know that it all started from out there collecting signatures for a ballot.
Right.
A number of years ago.
Well, tell us a little bit about this bad boy that's sitting behind you here.
Yeah, so this is Baby Jane, color sweet Baby Jane. This is CO2 extraction. We do supercritical CO2 extraction here. We can also do subcritical. One of the things I like about this machine in particular is that I have a number of manual inputs. So I can change some settings and dial things in a way that a lot of the automated machines aren't able to. So we've kind of worked through a lot of our processes. Initially, we were dealing on the hemp side
Right.
to really refine some of the extraction processes until we could get that tier 1 license.
Right.
And so we did a lot of our work there, a lot of the team training there before we could pull the trigger on that tier 1. So that once we had the ability to pull in tier 1, we rolled right in. Right? So we started product development from day 1 as soon as we had that license. And it was really satisfying to go from like a consultant to part of the ownership team, right? And so what you've got here is it's basically about 800K in equipment just sitting behind me right now. But the quality that we get out of this machine is very, very high. So yeah, we can do about 40 pounds a run, and very quickly, we'll be running 120 to 160 pounds a day through these guys. So
Most Utah patients, at least who are consuming cartridges, are used to the ethanol extracted ones.
yeah.
Sweet Baby Jane that's sitting behind you here is a CO2 extractor.
That's right.
Can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, so one of the things that's nice about CO2 is when I'm stripping cannabinoids, I'm not having to deal with a lot of the chlorophylls that you get from ethanol. And so a lot of the extract that comes off is just cleaner, right? And specifically for carts, you'll notice that in our cart that we've got in the market now, people have really responded to it in a way that's different because one, I've been able to preserve a lot of the cannabinoids just in production, right? The way that we decard, the way that we extract. We're also pulling cannabis derived terpenes, and all of that goes back into the cart, right? We're not just buying some food grade terps and just slamming it into a cart and putting it on the shelf. And so there's a lot of thought behind not only that, but also cultivars that we use. So we do things a little bit different here in that I'll do specific blends before I even start extraction because I know what my targets are beforehand. And that's some things that you don't see a lot of other people doing. But when you look at a medical cart, that's really hugely beneficial for patients.
And that's something that we can see in the latest cart that you just released, the Heal You cart, the Farmer's Blend, correct?
Exactly, that's the idea behind Farmer's Blend.
Okay, great. And what pharmacies right now can patients find those at?
So we're featured at Beehive, right? And I really, that pharmacy is really doing some good things. John is a wonderful partner over there. But we're also in Desert Wellness. We've got some presence at, we'll have some stuff over at, will hopefully be moving to Perfect Earth. Wholesome's got some of our cards as well, but the majority of our cards right now are with Beehive. What we were able to produce with the flower that we brought in, we're limited run.
Right.
We're basically craft batches. And so, our first offerings really went through pretty quick.
Right.
But yeah, those are the groups that have it now. Cureleaf is going to probably bring some on here shortly. But yeah, those are the key pharmacies. But really, when we talk about pushing patients, we're either pushing patients to Desert Wellness or to Beehive.
Right.
And it's all like that. Right? So.
Well, and that makes sense for you guys being located here in Utah County.
Yeah.
And another exciting thing about that is Utah County has more patients per capita than anywhere else in the state.
That's right, surprisingly.
Right, it's got a lot of head steam here. What products can people look forward to seeing here in the future?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing topicals. We've got a gummy line that we're getting. We just got our testing back from the state, so those will be on the shelf here shortly. Our topicals have just been approved as well, so those will be the next two things that will come out. We're going to be focusing on some craft concentrates. So we're doing, some shatter, some waxes, but also bubble hash. So we're going to do a bunch of solventless stuff. So in some of the mature markets, solventless is really the next step.
Yep.
And so we want to focus on not only solventless bubble hash extraction, some water hash extraction, but also rosin from that stuff. So
right.
The solventless concentrates are going to be big for us, along with a lot of the familiar products that you guys have seen on the shelves in the states already. So a lot of the shatters and waxes that will be there.
Utah patients have been asking where the high THC concentrates are, but I think something important to point out is none of those products are made unless you have the type of equipment that's sitting behind you. And this takes time not only to acquire, but to set up and get comfortable using. It sounds like you've been around these machines before, so you're the perfect alchemist to be taking on the job at Life Elevated.
That's right.
What flower, I think we kind of hit everything that we...
What's important to talk about with concentrates is we're only as good as the product that we're getting.
Right.
So we're kind of beholden to the flower that we're getting. And right now, some of the cultivators that we're working with are great. But we're really looking forward to being exposed to more cultivars and more higher amounts of those cultivars so that we can really focus on some products. There's just not enough bio for us to run to be able to do all of the products. And so we want to focus on concentrates, we want to focus on topicals. We've got a list of products that we want to license for some of the familiar products that are out of state. But right now, we're really just a slave to the bio that we're getting.
Yep.
And there's just not a lot of flower available to us.
Right.
A lot of it's going to the shelf directly. And we're also paying the same prices what people are to put it on the shelf. And so, our margins are difficult right now, but we see that getting better. We see product availability getting better. So.
Yep. It's tough in a new program where, one, you're still developing. Two, we've got a patient population that nobody expected. And so the demand is going through the roof right now. 8 cultivators that are growing Utah medical cannabis, and it sounds like most of them are kind of catching up
they're working on it.
Sounds like Trike is primarily the flower that you've had the luxury of working with, but Harvest might be making their entrance here into the facility here soon too. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, we're working with Trike right now. Harvest is we're looking at bringing some product in from Harvest. We're also working with Zion to bring some bio in and do some stuff with those guys. But honestly, we'd love to talk to any of the cultivators. You know, some of the guys that are vertical aren't necessarily looking to put product outside of their vertical. You know, they've got their own needs to fill. So that's been challenging. You know, here in the Utah market is getting access to product for more than just the people who don't have their whole vertical run.
Right.
And so we've kind of formed an alliance with a lot of people that are cultivating but don't necessarily have the pharmacy outlets, right? And so you'll see more of those strategic partnerships and more of those branding opportunities present themselves. And we're really excited to offer a wider range of products as that stuff comes online. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys have come here in the future, and it's become apparent that processors like you are a very important cog in the wheel with getting cannabis to the shelves. Growers, without you, they can't even handle their flower, it sounds like, after chopping it during harvest.
Yeah. So processing is a very important component, for sure. But you know, we all need each other, and you know, the industry is dependent on every spoke in the wheel. And so, you know, we just appreciate the opportunity to work with whoever it is that comes to us with flower. And we're really excited for some products. Our gummies that are getting ready to drop, we're really excited about. We've done some things to help with bioavailability and time to onset, and I think it'd be a very familiar experience like our carts. You'll notice the difference when you try our product, and that's our key for every product.
Yep.
We want you to understand the difference and notice and realize that, you know, you say we're a brand for a reason. So yeah, we're excited to be in the market here.
No, we're excited that you're here in Utah's green scene, and more excited to see what you're going to come out with in the future. So thanks for having us around today, Justin.
I appreciate you coming out. Thanks for